Good morning. It is Wednesday morning, and I don't know if this is going to be the only one I put up today or one of two. And I apologize to those of you who aren't used to seeing more than one video up or even one video per day from me lately. Sometimes I take some time off. But during this week's challenge, there's a lot of people on this challenge, and I want to make sure that we have plenty of communication going on and address any questions that come up. And I want you guys that are on this challenge to feel like somebody is watching and somebody is listening to what you're sharing on your every single comment that comes in. Even if I can't respond right away, I try to as quickly as I can. And if I can respond in making a video, then that's even better. I feel like we're having a little bit more communication. But I want you to feel supported, while you're doing this week. I think that when we have those times where we feel the most alone is when other things can sneak in, and I don't want anybody to really feel that way. So anyway, that being said, I wanted to talk about a couple things right now. Number one, I want to welcome a few new people to the challenge. Let me know if I've missed you, because sometimes the comments don't come up right away, and I will mention you in the next video. So I'm sorry if I'm just like butchering the names, because, I'm just like not so good at that. Number one, Julie Delaney. I want to welcome Julie to the challenge. Also, John, is it Janie or Johnye? That's a cool name in either case. Iberi. Welcome. And Jacqueline. I love that name, Jacqueline, or is it Jacqueline? And then Kathleen Jones. I want to welcome you both to the challenge. And wish you all the best. We're here for you. Share your experiences, please, and let us give you some feedback and some encouragement. A few comments that came in on the last video, and I know that they're still coming in. Janie Gomez had kept her added sugars to 4 yesterday, which is incredible. Janie, I did the same thing. I did 4 added sugars, which really surprised me, but I went throughout the day totally mindful. Isn't that incredible that it really pulls us into what we're doing, and we're just so attentive, and we're able to, for me, it makes me feel like I'm more in charge, and that is very empowering. Janie also mentioned how she's also seems to be watching her total intake, and her total intake of sugars was 27, which I have to say is like super good, because I'm not doing my total. And I wonder about that. I think I might do that today just to see, because I'm curious, even though it's not actually part of the challenge to do the total sugars. But I am curious to see where I'm at on that. Karen Bradford had mentioned that she was surprised how much sugar was in watermelon. Yeah, I would have to agree with you, Karen. I was surprised at how much watermelon is actually a higher glycemic fruit. I'm going to interject here. Okay, so even though, now this is one of the reasons why we're not including fruit sugars into our added sugar count this week. Even though watermelon is a higher glycemic index fruit, the glycemic load that it carries, which has been argued that that's what we should really pay attention to, watermelon is low. It's actually a 2. So, that being said, if you have problems with your blood sugars, definitely if you have diabetes, work with your doctor, find out, what you should be having to keep that down. So that's why we're not counting, because we don't really, keep it in moderation. As with all things, but that's one of the reasons why we're not counting it. I don't want you to worry about it so much. Remember, just worry about those added sugars. Another comment came in from Charlotte Welch, and that was she ended the day at 25 grams of sugar and added sugars, I'm thinking, and I think was a little bummed out about having a cereal snack. At the end of the day, Charlotte, don't feel bummed. You still ended the day at 25, and that's awesome. That is a victory. Cereal is one of my nemesis, so I totally hear you on that. I was always bummed out to know that a serving of cereal is like 3/4 cup, right? Unless it's more of like a granola cereal, it's probably even less, but 3/4 cup, who even has that, right? It's like one of those little fun boxes they used to sell, which I don't see in the supermarket anymore, but they were like, yay big, and you're supposed to open the box and pour the cereal right into it when we were kids, but for me, I used to have the biggest bowl I could find, and I'd fill it up as much as I could, and I would eat it until I was like having some sort of I went through the sugar high and came down on the sugar low, but I was still eating the cereal. I was a kid, so it is something that I've always really enjoyed, and so it's actually one of the things I stay away from now because eventually it took the place of cake for me. So I usually just stay away. But yeah, cereal is a hard one. I wonder what kind it was. I don't know what kind was it. I'm curious now. All right, Unstuffing Marianne Dunham shared that pineapple was 16 grams of sugar. Is that in a serving, or is that how much you had, Marianne? I think it sounds like maybe that's in a serving, right? But it has fiber in it, and again, that's a fruit sugar, and that's not what we are counting for the sake of this week. But it is so impressive that you have noticed that, and I think that's one of the wonderful things that's coming out of this this week is that we are becoming like ultra savvy consumers about our sugar and being on our guard and looking for that kind of thing, right? I love pineapple. And by the way, Marianne, after you were talking about pineapple, I had to go to the store for a few things yesterday, and I picked up a pineapple because of the power of suggestion. You put that in my mind, and I picked out a good one. It's almost ripe, and I set it by the sink, and my husband was washing dishes last night. He's so sweet. And he goes, I cannot believe I keep getting a whiff of that pineapple and how good it smells, and I just can't wait until we open it. So that being said, yeah, I can't either. It's going to be a real treat. Oh, and also I watched Jess this morning with WW Journey to Healthy. Please check her out. She's doing this challenge. Normally she has amazing videos anyway, but she's doing this challenge, and she's also doing a low carb challenge. And so I'm like blown away because I don't think I could do both at the same time, but she is just amazing, like I said, so check her out. One of the things that I noticed, and I think Jess had noticed too, was that she was feeling kind of tired, and it might be because of what the challenges that she's doing, but even just doing this challenge with the regular workouts that I do and stuff, I found last night, and you could really see it in my video, I was just exhausted. I was exhausted for most of the day, actually, that I was going about things. And then last night, I just could not wait to go to sleep and close my eyes. I was just like so out of it. And I wondered if that had something to do with, just having the lower sugars and things just starting to change. I did notice this morning that I dumped a bunch of inflammation. Yesterday when I was in the store, I was walking around and I was just playing with my ring, and it was coming on and off. And I thought, oh, that's funny because I hadn't been able to move it like in over a week. In fact, I was starting to get a little worried. And then this morning I hopped on the scale, and I'm down 1.2. 1.2 from this same time last week. So I was really happy about that came down. So anyway, I think that the inflammation has a lot to do with it, and the extra water, which I am like drinking. I have this full at all times, and especially with this challenge, bringing my sugars down, it's going to be really super important to flush, right? To flush and flush and flush, and just keep your water bottle full and keep it on you at all times this week. It's going to make all the difference when you weigh in at the end of the week. And I hope that you do weigh in at the last day of the challenge and just take note of where you're at, because then the next day is Memorial Day. And who knows what's going to happen. And I don't want you to miss what you've done this week and then have some inflammation in your body before you do your weigh-in next week. So don't forget, at the end of the challenge, it's not part of the challenge, but I'm suggesting to weigh in when you get done on the last day, just so you can take note and see what's happened in your body. So, but anyway, very quickly, I wanted to talk about bugging out supplies, right? And you've all, I don't know if you're familiar with that term, like putting together a bug out bag when, a lot of preppers for, I guess when what they call the SH hits the fan happens and, the grid goes down, all these little terms. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but people, they stockpile the water and the food in their home and they have bug out bags with emergency things like that so that when it all hits the fan, they're prepared, right? They're prepared to be able to survive a week or two or whatever it is until, they can get help or more supplies or whatever. Okay, so that's, having a bug out bag kind of helps them to prepare for that in case there's an emergency of some kind. All right, so that being said, I wonder, prepper mindset, but I think that it can be useful in going about, what we're doing is trying to prepare for things. We could go along, on low carb or low sugar or whatever it is that we're doing on our challenges. We could be on our plan and sticking to it. But eventually there's something that happens at one point or another where we're a little low on our, like I said before, our serotonin, our tryptophan is low, whatever, it's like, and all of a sudden our body's looking and going, you know what? I need an influx of carbs. I need an influx of carbs and I need it now. I want sugar, I want this or that, and I need it now. And we have to have a go-to and we need to have a plan that we're going to do when it hits the fan, and we need a bug out bag, right? You don't need one in a bag, so to speak, but you need a plan, right? Which is why I made all of those chocolate pudding cups yesterday, the sugar-free chocolate pudding cups. My husband had a bug out moment last night after dinner, and I know that he was having one, and that's the time that's really hard for him. My hard time is between lunch and dinner. His hard time is right after dinner, and that's when he will start scouring through the cupboards and looking for something sweet and crunchy and whatever it is to just bring in those carbs and those sugars and suffice that bug, right? And I told him, go get a chocolate pudding out of the fridge. I put them in the garage. And he said, okay, great. After he had one, he was fine and he was settled. And so it was just enough to kind of like quiet him down a bit. And he went to bed shortly afterward. And I think one of the reasons why he went to bed was because he was purposely trying to avoid bugging out, right? Even more than that. But so it's really important to have something set aside, and I have to really encourage you to have protein available, hard-boiled eggs, cheese sticks, have something, yogurt parfaits, something put together and set aside so when you have a bug out moment, even if you don't feel like having that protein, you feel like having carbs, you feel like having sugar, have that protein, have whatever it is you set aside for bugging out, and that is going to settle you down and you'll be able to think about it more reasonably and make a better choice, and that'll bring you down again. But protein, always think of lean protein, and definitely have something that you can bug out on that's going to keep you in your goal of under 25 grams of added sugar that day. That way you don't bug out, right? So anyway, I just want to encourage you with that today, and I will see you in a little bit to show you my meals later. All right, love you guys. Bye.